Physics 1, Tan Book. 05 The Kingdom of God. 5a Planes of Life. There are many planes of life, one above or below another, yet not conflicting. All creation is based on life activity, or as it is called in physical science, rates of vibration. A certain activity in the life current forms worlds on a plane, which we may call the physical. A little increase in the vibratory rate makes another system, which we may designate as the psychical. A still higher rate makes a universe where spiritual ideas prevail. These are all interlaced and interblended in the presence around and within us. Hence the kingdom of God is within you, Luke 17 verse 21, or among you, as one translator gives it. The Revealing Word, Planes, page 150. The kingdom of God is within you. The pivotal point around which spirit creates is within the structure of consciousness. Jesus Christ heals 76. This paragraph is especially helpful in clarifying the confusion which sometimes occurs when people believe that because God is the one presence and one power, because God is omnipresent, and because God is our creator, everything in existence is one in the sense of all being on the same scale. This is not metaphysically correct. True, there is the essence of oneness which binds, blends, and harmonizes all things. But there is the fact of differences in scale, different planes, different vibratory rates. These differences are what require recognition of polarity and scale of being. To overlook this is to call everything the same in all respects, which is not practical Christianity. The only thing we know of which is able to cope with the paradox of the oneness of God's creation, and all of being with the polarity and diversity of planes of existence, is consciousness. In our existential universe, consciousness is the key that unlocks all the mysteries of paradox. 5b Fourth Dimension. All persons in rare moments catch glimpses of this creative plan as a whole, and of man's importance in its beauty and perfection. But this subject is so deep and so far-reaching that it can be realized in small degree only by those who have developed spiritual sight and feeling and practice thinking in the fourth dimension. Atom-smashing power of mind 62. One of the problems connected with thinking about the fourth dimension is that some persons tend to think of the fourth dimension as the absolute. It is not the absolute, but only a dimension which transcends most of the current limitations of three-dimensional existence. The absolute is not any dimension. 5c Recognition of the kingdom. It is not a question of geographical locality, but of mental recognition. Seeking the kingdom of God within changes our whole mental viewpoint. We find ourselves right in the presence of creative mind, and seeking to cooperate with this mind, we receive spiritual inspiration and are guided in even the most minute details of life. Teach us to pray 87. It is wonderful and exhilarating thought that the kingdom of God is within us. The kingdom of God is a term used by Jesus, which has the same meaning as omnipresence. As far as an individual human being is concerned, the very heart of omnipresence is within his own being. Since God is beyond all dimensions and all limitations of space and time, it is correct to say that the very center of omnipresence is wherever any person becomes centered in that presence. A person can only become centered in himself. Hence, Jesus states, "For lo, the kingdom of God is within you." We may take Mr. Fillmore's words quite seriously when he tells us that seeking the kingdom of God within changes our whole mental viewpoint. It is vital to believe this and understand its implications. A person's mental viewpoint before seeking the inner kingdom might be mediocre or even lacking. But by making the sincere effort to center oneself in omnipresence, wonderful changes of consciousness will occur. These good inner changes will find ways to manifest into the outer, beginning with the health of the body and then into the many affairs of daily existence. 5d Externalization of the Kingdom of God. This is no fanciful sketch, nor does it refer to a theoretical place or condition to be reached in some future state or under circumstances more propitious. This kingdom of God is now existing right here in our midst. It is being externalized little by little. Jesus Christ heals 115. The externalization of the kingdom of God is one aspect of our purpose on earth. In order to do this, we must learn how to grow in dominion and mastery of existence. We cannot demonstrate the kingdom of God if we have not first learned to be useful and dependable in the down-to-earth business of ordinary existence. Mr. Fillmore correctly states that the externalizing of God's kingdom is being accomplished little by little. This is true, and we must learn to reconcile ourselves to this fact. Otherwise, we become impatient and seek shortcuts and artificial methods. 5e. The Kingdom of Heaven. Heaven is everywhere present. It is the orderly, lawful adjustment of God's kingdom in man's mind, body, and affairs. It is the Christ consciousness, the realm of divine ideas, a state of consciousness in harmony with the thoughts of God. Heaven is within every one of us, a place, a conscious sphere of mind, having all the attractions described or imagined as belonging to heaven. Keep it true, Lent 177. Metaphysically, the kingdom of God and the kingdom of heaven are not exactly the same things. The kingdom of God is the absolute. It is omnipresent, limitless, changeless, pure being. The kingdom of heaven is relative to us. It encompasses the very highest levels of our being. Also, it is a process within us. It is our growing and unfolding consciousness of truth and oneness with God. It is within, but it is in different stages of realization for each person and not a fixed absolute, as is the kingdom of God. In unity, there is a tendency is to speak of both kingdoms without any distinction of meaning. This usually causes no problems, for they are so closely interrelated that it seems unnecessary to separate them. 5f. Science and Religion. The kingdom of the heavens, the new dimension of mind and energy that is being unfolded today in the spiritual ethers by the discoveries of the scientists, should not be divorced from the kingdom of heaven taught in parables because his listeners were not trained in science. Atom-smashing power of mind 58. Charles Fillmore was a strong advocate for the validity of both religion and science, and the connection between the two is becoming more and more apparent. True metaphysical revelation always precedes the development of greater technology in science, medicine, and the arts. Greater technology is a furthering of the process of manifestation, which always begins in consciousness. But all are under the same system of principles and laws that are spiritual in origin, character, and purpose. Religion and science already are one, but our consciousness still needs to become more correctly aware of why and how. 5g. Kingdom of Heaven on Earth. The real of the universe is held in the mind of being as ideas of life, love, substance, intelligence, truth, and so forth. These ideas may be combined in a multitude of ways, producing infinite variety in the realm of forms. There is a right combination, which constitutes the divine order, the kingdom of heaven on earth. This right relation of ideas and the science of right thought is practical Christianity. Charles Fillmore, Christian Healing 14. Divine ideas constitute the kingdom of heaven. But they are formless and intangible as long as they remain just ideas in the higher levels of being. As our minds appropriate these divine ideas, we give them form and location in time and space. Under the law of mind action, these ideas are able to penetrate the realm where they take on form and character. They are able to express their energies after their kind, and they also are able to transform their energies directly into us as our own experience. 5h. God's Will. God-mind expresses its thoughts so perfectly that there is no occasion for change. Hence, all prayers and supplications for the change of God's will to conform to human desires are futile. God does not change his mind or trim his thought to meet the conflicting opinions of mankind. Understanding the perfection of God's thoughts, man must conform to them. So conforming, he will discover that there is never necessity for any change of the will of God in regard to human affairs. Charles Fillmore, Christian Healing 18. God is the only absolute good. Can we even begin to get an inkling of what absolute good means? We innately know that it is the ultimate truth about God. Do any of us really want absolute good to ever change? Of course not. Nor do we really want the will of absolute good to be altered or modified, even if we temporarily want things to go a certain way. When we recall the many times Jesus speaks of God's will, we find that it is always in regard to something good, good even beyond any personal expectations. 5i. The Divine Plan. In order to get at the very heart of being, it is necessary to realize that it is manifesting in the least as well as in the greatest, and that, in the bringing forth of a universe. Not one idea could be taken away without unbalancing the whole. This brings us to fuller realization of our importance in the universe and to the necessity of finding our right place. Charles Fillmore, Christian Healing 11. It causes a good feeling in a human soul when one realizes that we are all part of a divine plan. The very fact that we have been created means that we are necessary, somehow, even if we cannot as yet begin to see how. What is God's divine plan? We can perceive certain aspects of it and certain details within it, but as to the plan itself, we are just beginning to awaken to the fact that there is such a thing. The divine plan is not the same thing as predestination, because in God's plan there is always the divine idea of freedom. This means freedom of choice. This keeps the divine plan creative and organic. It is not a fixed, static thing. Does the plan ever change? Not really. But numerous changes constantly take place within the plan. That's what keeps our participation in the plan exciting and beautiful. 5J. Attaining the Kingdom. Man adjusts his thought world to the kingdom of divine ideas through a process of denial by which he eliminates from consciousness all inharmonious ideas, and through affirmations of truth by which he establishes himself in harmony with divine ideas. The kingdom of heaven is attained, first, by one's establishing in one's mind the consciousness of the truth of being, second, by one's adjusting one's outer life to truth. Metaphysical Bible Dictionary, Kingdom of Heaven, page 387. The one way in which we will surely attain our right place in God's kingdom is by conditioning our consciousness continuously. Mr. Fillmore believed and taught that the most effective way to do this is through correct expression of the powers of denial and affirmation. The formula is simple. You deny correctly by letting go of anything in consciousness which seeks to negate any divine ideas. You affirm correctly by stating your belief and willingness toward any divine ideas. Transcribed by Sherry Owen on August 5, 2015.